and welcome to the very first Get a Grip Live. My name is Felipe, and I'm very happy to be having the very first live.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit in episode one, but I'd wanted to do content, specifically tutorials, for a long time. But there are so many people already doing such a good job with tutorials. First and foremost, in my mind, would be Ripple Training. I didn't see any reason to really compete with that because I'm still buying their tutorials. So what's the point of me putting my own stuff out there? But there were other topics and other approaches that I wanted to try. And it wasn't until I left the Final Cut Pro 10 Creative Summit in 2017 where I was like, this is the time. So I kind of solidified more of my ideas. I reached out to Sam, who was immediately on board. We came up with a large list of topics and tweaked a few thoughts, and then approached you to be a guest. And I think before that episode was over, we knew you were just going to be part of the team. And I'm really glad that you were, because you've just added a lot to the team.
Well, thank you. I mean, you guys definitely made me feel part of the team since the very beginning, even being there as a guest. So thank you for that. And of course, whoever is joining live there, feel free to leave your comments and ask us questions, because we really want to interact with you guys, of course. But one thing, what I wanted to talk very quickly here about our setup. We have our cameras connected to our computers, that's connected to Wirecast, that is going into YouTube, and we are also recording locally, and we do this just in case. Okay, so in case we see any problems with streaming, of course, leave us a comment or something like that. We never know if connections and internet and public internet, all of those things are gonna work. But back at Get a Grip, I mean, how do you feel like being a YouTuber? Do you tell people that you're a YouTuber?
Hello. I had a minor technical difficulty of my own to deal with quickly. Getting back to where we left off with the show, we realized that we would get a lot more view counts if our episodes were 2 to 4 minutes long. And we are planning on having supplemental content, shorter videos, but we have no plans on stopping the full episodes, which we have whittled down considerably. They were around an hour and a half to start. Now they're hovering around 45 minutes. And I think there's a lot of value in being able to sit down with people who do this for a living at different levels of experience and different types of clients, and feel like you're having a candid conversation with them. The reason I came up with this general idea, which of course has been shaped by Sam and Felipe over time, but it's that while I was trying to learn video production, I always felt that a lot of the training just felt really removed. I'm watching somebody in a studio just talking to a camera, and it was just, even though a lot of the information was valuable, it just felt kind of cold, and I felt like it was very prepared, and a lot of the truth about what we encounter in the business wasn't being relayed. And so having a show that's relatively uncensored and where the conversation is loosely guided, you can kind of get a peek behind the curtain and see a lot of the things that people actually deal with. And that to me is worth something. Hopefully it's worth it to those of you out there who may or may not be listening right now.
Yeah, and there is the other thing is, I think a lot of us around the world, we have like this passion of video production and video post-production, but also it's very common that our circle of friends, our normal friends, none of them are interested in those things, right? So you normally don't have who to talk to about those, about video and stuff, and then you just seem like a nerd. So I think it's very nice when we have a channel like this that, and now that we can do this live as well, so we can talk to other people about those things that we find cool. And like, for example, me and you, we are texting every day, all day, and we just nerd out about stuff, and we talk all of those things. So I think it is a very easy thing for me to just be part of something like this channel. And yeah, of course, opinions, right? We're always talking about opinions. I have my opinion, you have your opinion. Sometimes we disagree, but that's what all there is. And I would love to see someone disagreeing with us live, actually.
Well, and there's a lot more than just opinions, though. I mean, there's a lot of information that we present that just is the way things are. There are facts about certain things. Our personal takes on that will obviously be clouded with opinion, but it's not like we're just out here ranting without any real knowledge to back that up. I mean, how long have you been doing this? I don't mean your business, but like when did you really pick up your camera at first, or start cutting?
Way more than a decade ago. I mean,
yeah.
It's something very old. I started with photography, and at some point, I had a mini DV. I was using Final Cut Pro 5. I think when I had the mini DV, it was already Final Cut Pro 7. It's very difficult to remember looking back that long. But yeah, we've been in this field for quite a long time. And me, for example, I've been in the broadcast field also for a fair amount of time too. So yeah, we do have some knowledge, but there is always smarter people than me out there, for example. I know that. And when people challenge me of what it is that I'm talking about, I try to be as logical as possible. And if they are right, they are right, and I'm wrong. And I have no problem with that at all.
No.
No, I was just going to say, what are you satisfied with the way Get a Grip is going so far?
Overall, I am. For somewhat superficial reasons, I'm really pleased with how it looks and sounds and feels as a larger entity. I never wanted us to start small with just webcams and then gradually turn into this thing. I wanted it to be like somebody could jump in online and all of a sudden, boom, here's this weird video production show that looks and sounds like it's just been there forever. I just wanted it to be like kind of a punch in the face, already polished, good to go. And it takes a lot of effort to do that. This would be way easier if it was just webcams and no graphics, particularly live streaming. So I hope you guys appreciate the look and feel of it. But to me, it isn't just eye candy. I mean, if you're going to put yourself out there, you might as well put in some effort to make it look good. And really, I guess if you were going to apply that to someone wanting to get into video production, it's the same thing. You don't need $50,000 in equipment to get started. You don't need 20 years of experience to feel like you're good enough to get started, because we all start from zero, just like we're all born knowing nothing. The equipment and the experience come with time. And the best thing you can do is just start shooting, start cutting, start doing graphics. And you learn a little bit more every single project. Even editing the show, I'm learning about editing. Every time I rewatch an episode, when I'm not cringing at certain habits of mine that I get to see under the microscope, I'm looking at evaluating and seeing things that could be improved, not just for the show, but just for my own tool set. Felipe, I know I've been cutting all of these so far, and so you've gotten to watch them after the fact. Like, how do you feel about how they come across?
Well, very right now, I feel jealous that Anna is getting to cut an episode before I get to cut it. So basically, she's cutting a live episode right now, and I haven't cut any. But basically, every time that I'm watching them, I almost feel disconnected in a way, because it is so well done that I feel like watching it again. I always watch. Of course, it sounds very like super egocentric right now, but I just wanted to say one thing here. We have one person watching us live, which is Thomas. Hey Thomas, how are you? He has been with us here before, and I think we are looking forward to have him again here, right, Gabriel?
Yeah, we created and saved a custom lower third because I knew that Thomas would be on many times, unless he tires of us. But honestly, every guest that we've had on so far has graphics already prepared for repeated visits with us, which is a good thing. Awesome. It means we haven't had anybody on that sucked we hated, or that hated being a part of it.
We had some very nice guests. I mean, we had Thomas, we had Kirby. we're having another very special guest appearing for our next episode. I'm not going to let you guys know yet who it is. And there are several other guests that we have planned in our pipeline because we really want to hear opinions and experiences from other people. And we're trying to get people that either have their own businesses or somehow are connected to that. Now I have one very interesting question, which is, how do you see this YouTube thing connecting with your actual business? Do you think it impacts your business at all?
That was the part of the plan. The main motivation was simply to put meaningful and valuable content out there that other people can learn from. The process of doing that also affirms in my mind that which I actually know and that which I'm totally guessing about. So I don't go into very many things assuming I know all there is to know about it. For example, 2 episodes ago, we were talking about vertical video, and somebody was displeased with us because of our take on vertical video, and they brought up something that I wasn't aware of. But that's the whole point, is if you bring that up, then we are aware of it. And so hopefully we're doing that for a lot of people out there. And not just people who are trying to get started. I've worked with a lot of people with more experience than me over the years, and have found that I think when you do something for so long, you forget certain things along the way, and these things that are forgotten jump out at me because I hadn't been doing it as long. And I find it surprising that so many important, valuable things are kind of being left aside. And so I'm hoping that this show will serve as a reminder to people who have been doing this for a while that you're not done growing, you're not done learning. My road is not going to be done. There's no point at which I see myself sitting there and saying, that's it. I know all there is to know. I'm done. If I wanted that, I wouldn't have jumped into this as a career.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we actually have also Jason Brown connected with us. Jason, thank you very much. Jason and Thomas, thank you very much for watching to join us in this live broadcast. And how cool is it, right, that we can be on a live broadcast? I am here in Czech Republic. Gabe is in the US. You guys, I'm guessing that you're in the US as well. And we can all be part of an interesting conversation here. Hey, Jason, I don't know you personally. What do you do? Give us a little bit more information about you. And Thomas, he was writing here that he's doing great, listening in and watching while he's preparing for his own live video presentation in a few hours. So you see, broadcasts all around, and I'm pretty sure that this is not going to be our last one.
No, it won't be.
Gabe, now I need you to hold this audience for a little while because I need to change the battery of my camera. Look, this is super crazy. You see, I don't have the AC power for my camera. So we have been doing dry runs and things like that, and now it's time to go there and change. So Gabriel, they're all yours.
All right. Well, that makes me think about power. And power has always been something that's really bothered me on shoots. I don't like having to babysit power any more than I like babysitting camera cards running out of space. So for example, here I've got AC power powering my GH5 so that I can just plug it in and let it go all day. I recently invested in some V-mount batteries so I can be on a shoot. I can plug in my entire rig to one battery and literally shoot all day and never have to worry about power. When I first started doing this, that was like the last thing on my mind. At that point, it was just, am I framing things correctly? Is the sound good? Is everything exposed and in focus? And then every shoot, you just kind of make a mental note of all the things that bothered you or got in your way or were bottlenecks in your workflow. And then as soon as I have time to address it or the money to address it, that's the first thing I focus on. So yeah.
Well, I definitely want to have an AC power or a V-mount kit for my GH5. That would be very helpful.
For me, not having to worry about power was a much better investment than moving from like a GH5 to like a Blackmagic Ursa or something like that. Because power affects me every shoot, but not every shoot warrants a camera like that. So anyway, that was our little power tangent. I would love it if Jason or Thomas had a question or a comment, something we can dive into. It's my understanding. They're like delayed by a minute though, aren't they? So it might be a moment.
Yes. Sorry, guys. I had to delay the broadcast just in case because it's the first one. So those are parts of the gig, right? But I think since we are talking about power and all of those things, I think it's also worth mentioning. I mean, you're saying power was more important to you than going to another camera, right?
No, well, not more important. It's just
Priority or not?
when I'm shooting, I'm more often until now that I have my problem solved. I'm more often all I want to do when I get there is focus on the artistic side of things. I want the technical side to disappear. I want to set it up and not have to worry about it the rest of the shoot. Because every time my eye has to look at a battery level or I'm worried about running out of juice, I'm not focused on the best framing or working with the talent or the lighting. And I'm almost always alone in my shoots. There's nobody to help me with that. So everything I can do to get that stuff out of the way and focus on my craft, the artistic side of it, the happier I am. Because fundamentally, I'm not necessarily technical by nature. I don't want to be a technician. I want to be an artist. So that to me is just more important currently than shooting, moving from 4K to 8K or shooting in RAW.
Oh, and I just see here a comment from Jason. We actually met, and now I see which Jason it is. Is the Jason that I met in 2016 at the Creative Summit. So, Gabe, you went in 2017. I went the year before, and we both, me and Jason, we had some cool talks there. And just for you guys to know, and for you to know also, Gabe, he does video production for the University of Tennessee. And predominantly he helps the faculty develop online courses material. So it's now it's one thing that I want to say. Hey, Jason, are you a professional? Because we hear from a lot of people, if you don't work in Hollywood or in broadcast, you're not professional. To all of those people, I'm sorry. If you make a living out of something, you're a professional.
Yes.
That's my opinion anyway.
Whether you're any good or not is for somebody else to answer. And I don't mean this to you specifically, Jason. I mean this for myself. Just because I get paid doesn't mean my work's any good. But you are technically still a professional as soon as you get paid to do it. I would argue you can be an artist whether anybody sees your work or not.
Yeah.
For video,
you can be a video professional and an amateur artist. You can be an amateur and a professional artist. There are a lot of different ways that you could mix that thing, right? I mean,
well, really,
do you agree
if
with
you
that?
make art, you're an artist. It doesn't matter if anybody sees it or buys it. For the term professional changes it a bit though, because it's your profession, so it implies an income. But switching gears a little bit, Thomas asked, how do you feel about the added weight of the V-mount battery? For me, there is no added weight that comes into play because it's going to be locked down on a tripod most of the time. If I was doing handheld work or run and gun, I wouldn't use a V-mount battery for that unless I'd have to really start working out.
Yeah, if you're putting on a Ronin S, for example, you definitely want to be as stripped down as possible. For example, you can even put a red camera there, but of course the red camera is going to be with Jetpack, which is going to give you I think it's a LiMOR connector there, so the battery is coming from somewhere else, it's not coming from the body of the camera itself. So with the GH5 on the Ronin S, for example, even if I had a V-mount, I would never put that V-mount around, because that battery is super heavy. You have a 90-something watt battery.
95 watt, it's about yay big. It doesn't weigh that much, all things considered. A little more than my camera does, probably. But it's when I'm locked down. I mean, generally, if I have a tripod, it's because I'm going to be in a shoot for at least 4 hours. And that's where I can just slap on the battery and just let it run. If it's a shoot where there's a lot of running around, if I had a crew or even one assistant, I could more easily access power and have access to power. But when you're alone, and I don't even have a Ronin or a Glide Cam. It's like a handheld rig. So I'm definitely not going to want a battery on there. And for that, it's so easy to just swap the battery out. That takes 2 seconds. But when I'm tied down at an entire rig, there's no way to easily access a battery and turn it on and off, swap batteries. So that's where the V-mount comes into play.
Now,
And
I know that you've been wanting to get to camera movement at some point, aren't you?
well, I have camera movement. I try to be wary of trends. For example, everybody just does super slow motion footage now, so it's something I generally don't do. Um, if something specifically called for it, I would do it. Same thing with like glide cams, and now everybody's just doing that thing.
It's also
But
part of a style, right? I mean,
well, it's a part of a style, but like anything else, it's just like when the first Canon DSLR came out, everybody was obsessed with super shallow depth of field, where it's just the tip of your nose is in focus and the eyes are completely out. So it's one of those things where do I appreciate shallow depth of
Cinematic.
field? Yeah, throwing that term in there. So these things all have a purpose, but I try to only use it if the project calls for it, and not just because I don't enjoy watching videos where every shot is slow motion. I don't think that's necessarily in service of the story, but if you have a well-told story that has slow motion shots in it, sewn together in a way that makes sense, great. Anyway, to answer your question, yes, I would like to add more movement than I currently have, and that will require a glide cam.
Yeah, I see Thomas saying that, commenting here on that comment about art. Yeah, if you create art for others, then you're a pro. Yeah, paid or not. Yeah, that's true, right? I mean, if it's such a complicated term, the pro term, right? Why I say is like this. For example, if you do something for a living and you get paid, you are pro. If you do something for others, you're probably a pro as well. If you, and then, my God, this is such would be such a long conversation, because where I'm trying to get at is when people say company X doesn't care about pros, and be whatever company it is, Google, Amazon, Apple, Adobe, Avid, I would actually open the discussion. Does Avid really care about pros if they have such an outstanding list of requirements that people have had for the past 10 years that they haven't really resolved? Is that caring about the pro? The cost of operation of a system being very high, does that mean that they care or not about the pro? I mean, I know that I opened that can of worm, but it's such a complicated thing. I completely agree. If you do it for a living and if you do it for other people, you're a pro.
Yes.
Like, we see it online, some type of video contents that has the word amateur. Well, that's just a catchphrase because they're all pros.
Yeah, and I try not to get hung up in that. I mean, a lot of people throw around the word guru. This person's a Photoshop guru. And then if you quiz them, you find out there's a ton of stuff they don't know. So it's like, you've got to earn these titles. But I find people who really glom on to these titles, they have a problem with their own ego. I don't really care if somebody calls me a pro or not. I'm confident in what I do, and my clients are confident in what I do.
I heard a very interesting phrase the other day. It's like, for a worm inside a mustard can, the world is mustard. So, I mean, if you call someone a guru, it's probably because you and your circle has a certain amount of knowledge, and that person that you see as a guru has more knowledge than you. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that that person is the guru, right? I mean, I've met a lot of people that I considered gurus before, but once I had the opportunity to actually talk to them, I saw that, one, I had as much knowledge as them in different areas, but really. So I don't know.
Yeah, people have called me a Final Cut Pro 10 guru before, and it's like, I know it really well, but I forget keyboard shortcuts, and one of the nice things about Final Cut Pro 10 is there are multiple ways to accomplish the same tasks, and the ways I'm currently using aren't necessarily as efficient as they could be. I mean, there are always things that you can improve on. So I don't walk around calling myself a guru in any area. It just doesn't make sense. I'm just me. What title you want to give me, I don't really care. Why have that attachment?
I have a question for our gigantic audience that is connected right now, and whoever else comes in afterwards that they are watching this show after being live, maybe a day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 40 days after now. Is there anyone from the gurus in the world or anyone else that you would like to hear from here that we bring as a guest? And the sky is the limit. If you aim at someone in Hollywood, we're gonna try our best. Cannot promise that we're gonna get them, but we're gonna try. If there is someone that you'd like to hear from, would be nice. If there is a subject that you would like to hear us talking about, even if we don't are connoisseurs of that subject, would be even interesting for us because it gets us to research and bring in someone that knows more about it. I mean, it's like building a team. You don't want to build a team of people that know less than you. You want to build a team of people that know more than you so you can learn from them, right? Gabriel,
Felipe.
is there anything that you would like to talk about? I mean, we talked about Get a Grip, how we started, where we are right now. We are all very busy. We all have our jobs and we're doing this weekly. You're editing these 40-minute shows weekly and we're recording them, and now we're doing the live one. Is there anything that you'd like to add either about Get a Grip, about YouTube, or any of those subjects before we dive into something else?
There's a lot I could say about it, and right now my concern is more how to reach more viewers than the show itself. I think the show is pretty solid as it is, as far as the full episodes. As I mentioned, we will do shorter things that people can jump into. I know if I want to go online and learn how to, like, say, move a keyframe in Apple Motion, I don't want to watch a 45-minute video to learn how to do that. When people ramble on and on and on, that's not the best format for that type of tip. But for a full conversation, these are working for me. Enough viewers have told us that they enjoy it and that the response has been good. But we also haven't done any marketing. That's something I'd like to work on more. But it can be tricky because we're not making any money on the show. It's actually costing money. We have limited time because we are fitting this in to our work schedules. And that's the same reason Sam couldn't join us today, because he wasn't able to carve the time aside. He got called away. So it's tricky for all of us. Mostly I want other people to join and comment and subscribe, not because of any view count, any magical number. There are no dollars attached. It's because I'm interested in being part of a community. I mean, when I went to the Final Cut Pro 10 Creative Summit, I really felt like I was with my peers. With very little exceptions, a few exceptions, I felt embraced by everyone, from the wedding shooter to the Hollywood editor, and that was really amazing. And I'm hoping to help foster a community here. So the more people that can jump on and disagree with us, or come at something with another angle, or if you're we're pretty outspoken Final Cut Pro 10 editors. If you're an avid editor, jump in. We'd love to have you as a guest. I just don't know any avid editors. The Premiere editors I know currently are pretty new to this, so
we're actually gonna have an avid editor that has been editing Hollywood for 25 years and now is working on a project on Final Cut Pro 10. So that's gonna be one of our next guests as well. So that's gonna be a very interesting conversation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's tricky to find topics that everyone can jump into equally, because the three of us, the hosts, you, me, and Sam, we shoot and edit, and each of us do a different amount of motion graphics. But not everybody we have on is going to be a shooter. We already recorded episode 11. She'll be out. Her episode will be out next week. She's not a shooter, so we're not really talking about shooting there so much. If we have an avid editor on there, there's a lot we could talk about, but it's tricky to not turn it into an NLE war. Just because they're coming on doesn't mean we want to spend the whole episode comparing, Final Cut Pro 10 and Avid. We'd want it to be more about, I would think, editing itself
anymore,
and storytelling itself. Because if you're good at Avid, it's going to be just as good of a tool for you as Final Cut 10 is for us. It's really kind of irrelevant what you're using at the end of the day. there are factual things you could say about it. Final Cut Pro is probably factually faster once you're trained, but that's all still beside the point. So, yeah, I just would like to talk to as many different people as possible. I don't care if you're a man or woman or where you are in the world, what your level is. I don't care if you've been doing this for 20 years or if you haven't started yet and you're just curious about it. That's all really great conversation stuff.
Well, there are a couple of people here. There are a couple of suggestions for guests that we can have here. One is Jeff Greenberg, and
Well, yeah.
as Jason said, yes, Jeff Greenberg. He really is. Oh, he is a person that I can say a guru. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember watching a Linda training, very much, so much in the back behind, like 2011 maybe or 12, and it might have been an essential training from Jeff Greenberg. Actually, I'm not sure. I know that he does stuff for Linda, but I remember watching something there from someone. It was very useful. And then, of course, Ripple training. Who knows? Maybe we can get Mark Spencer here, Steve Martin. Thomas is saying for us to get Finch here. Do you guys know who Finch is?
Yeah, Finch
He's
is
black.
Finch is my black cat. I named him after David Fincher, but he's not allowed in my studio because if you choose the wrong cable, I could be out of work for months. So
Or out of cat.
Yeah, or out of cat. And I'm not sure which one I would lean towards, but yeah, Finch is not allowed in my studio. Sorry, everybody.
Well, that's a shame. Well, but there are some other people that I also have in mind, and I would love to have here as a guest, right? Of course, Sam Masterman, Patrick Southern, Ronnie Cortons. There are a bunch of guys out there that are so good. And of course, there is Girgana with the Luma Forge as well. There is Maya Hawk. There are so many people around. But there is a couple of things here that I wanted to talk. What was it? No, I don't remember. I started talking about I started talking about things and that's it. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about that was in the queue here in my head just went away. Oh, I remember. I just wanted to do a shout out because of Get a Grip. I was asking you before, did it impact at all your business and so on and etc.
Yeah, I never answered that.
Actually, I'm going to answer my own question and then you can answer. Basically, it has impacted mine, not in terms of bringing me money or anything, but for example, I've been invited to speak at a podcast for Brazil. It's a Brazilian Portuguese podcast that's on iTunes. It's called Sala de Edição. So if there is any Brazilians out there or Portuguese watching this, and they have a fantastic content. They talk about editing in general, techniques, storytelling, and they have very good guests there. So I would like definitely to thank them live here for inviting me there. And of course, this is what I find it so brilliant about being on YouTube, is that it's so easy for you to get connected with other people through making a video, reading comments, answering comments, to going into a live broadcast and interacting with people live. So I think I'm very happy with that. I was working with broadcasts before, but I was always behind the scenes as a technical director, as a director, as a creative producer. Nowadays I'm in front of the camera, so actually it's really not bad. And I enjoy. I didn't know if I would enjoy being on camera, and for someone that has always been behind the camera, I actually do. So for people out there, I would say if you don't like being in front of the camera, try. You might end up liking it.
Yes.
And be careful.
Yeah, I'm not camera shy at all, but I didn't want to do this by myself. I mean, I just had no interest in setting up a camera and just being alone and speaking to the camera. That's basically why you and Sam are here. Partly a confidence thing.
Vlogging is difficult.
Maybe a little bit of self-consciousness, but also I need the feedback. Otherwise, if it was literally just me alone in the room, I'm either just regurgitating something I read somewhere or purely just spouting opinions and ranting. We have a little bit of ranting and a little bit of opinions and a lot of information in Get a Grip, and I just think it's a much better show with multiple people. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
no
there are
doubt.
people who do like Caleb Pike from DSLR Video Shooter does an amazing job just directly to camera. I mean,
He does a good
there's
show,
so many
yeah.
people, Curtis John. There are so many people who do this so well already that I wanted to do something a little different.
Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could have Caleb here?
I would love to have Caleb here, and I think he's in Chicago. So I would, which is nearby me. If yeah, you're in the Czech Republic. Chicago is about an hour and a half from where I live, so not a hard thing to arrange. And I didn't only do. This isn't set up this way just so I wouldn't like step on Caleb's toes, because he could look at our viewers and he's not worried about us.
Oh, definitely
So
not.
it's not that kind of thing. But I'm hoping we do something that's a little different than what he's doing, because he's already doing it so well. So yeah, I'd love to have him on. You mentioned like Mark Spencer earlier. They have their own channel, their own podcast, and they do very specific things there. But a lot of these people, they run their own video production companies that they don't get to talk about publicly, and that's the kind of stuff I'd like to ask him. They're probably sick of talking about their own show because they've been doing it for 20 years and that's what they're most known for. But I want to know, like, hey, on your business, what's this other side of you, that I've learned
I would like to know
I've
that
learned
too,
about
yeah.
indirectly through your other training. But that's the stuff that interests me, and I think would give them a chance to open up a little bit more.
Oh, you know who would be another interesting person to bring in on here is Brad Olson from Off the Tracks.
Yeah, we talked about him
And-
months ago because of Bradley Olson is the filmmaker who created Off the Tracks, which is a documentary about, I don't want to say it's about Final Cut Pro 10, because it's not an advertisement for it, but it kind of tells the sordid history of Final Cut Pro 10 from inception to where it is now. I think it's a really important film, but for obvious reasons, we wanted him on the show because we're all Final Cut Pro 10 fans. But again, he's done the tour now. He's working on that now. I don't want to ask him the same stuff he's been answering and talking about for the last 3 months. For me, I'd want to find a different angle, not just to be the ones who found a different angle, but to give him a break. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I interviewed him earlier in the year for the Brazilian community. So I basically asked him where he came from and how he got into Off the Tracks, and it was actually a very interesting story. And that's something that I actually love about documentaries, that everyone has a story to tell.
yes.
So in this case of this interview was a story about someone that tells other people's stories or tells stories. But I mean, if I stop the guy in the street here, or the lady that's crossing the street here, I'm pretty sure she's gonna have a very interesting story to tell. That's why I like documentaries. And I think I'm not a very good interviewer, or I'm not a good interviewer at all. Everyone's able to see that. That's why I really want to do interviews, because I want to get to the point that we're just having a chat. I remember someone commenting that watching our video is like watching someone talking in a pub, and really,
That's
it's just
good.
missing that's the beer right now, right?
That's what I wanted, because there are lots of shows that aren't that. I didn't, again, we're not swearing now because this is live, but and we don't make it a point to swear, for example, but if you do, fine, because that's how people talk in real life. I enjoy being able to speak freely and kind of loosely guide these things. Switching gears a tiny bit, apart from money, apart from being able to have all this equipment around you, what is the main thing that compelled you to get into video and into telling stories? Like, what moved you about that?
Whoa. Okay. I don't think people have asked me that question before.
There you go. Welcome to Get a Grip.
Okay, I will answer with a question that I keep on asking myself all the time is like, why did I choose this field? The equipment, you need equipment. The equipment is expensive. You need to get clients. People don't want to pay. When they want to pay, they don't want to pay a lot. I keep on asking myself that, and my answer right now is I really like what I do. I really like telling stories. I really like challenging myself, trying to find different framings, different ways of approaching a story and things like that. But that's today. How I got to today is actually weird. It's more about maybe opportunities appearing, because when I was about 12, we had a film camera at home. My mom was studying arts in university, and she was also studying photography. So she had this like nice German film camera, and I got very interested. I was seeing the pictures she was taking. I was very interested there. And at some point later, we had our first digital camera, and that's when I'm like, whoa, cool! I can snap a bunch of shit, and then I can get rid of that and just keep the good ones. And I started really getting interested in photography. Fast forward a little bit, a friend of mine, he bought probably a Sony digital camera, one of those that the zoom comes out and it's like this big and the camera is this small. And I think it could make very crappy little videos, but it could make. And we started saying, we had Final Cut, I had my first Mac and things like that. And then I bought a mini DV, and then I got hired to film a dance congress. So a lot of classes, a lot of presentations, a lot of people here and there. So it's not like I aimed to be in this field, more like things started happening and I enjoyed working with that. And then I worked in a film festival, and then I moved to Czech Republic. I worked in a call center, and then I worked with video conferencing, and then I worked with broadcast, and things went like that. But throughout this whole part, the one thing that was constant was editing. Okay. Final Cut 5, 6, 7, and later on 10. Through all of that, I always had Final Cut behind me, and I wasn't putting out any pieces or anything like that. More like I was always playing with it, at least on the 5 and 6 part. With the 7, I was already delivering some stuff. But yeah, I don't really have a proper answer of why. What about you?
Man, well, I wanted to make movies since I was a little kid. And I really got into learning about video around the time like Terminator 2 came out. That one really sparked, lit a fire that got me. There was no internet at the time, not to date myself, or I think there was internet, but it was like it was barely internet. It was certainly not at my house. So I would go to the library and you know, every science fiction magazine or movie making publication I could find, you know, getting books on industrial light and magic, and I wanted to start with special effects. But I think I really like the idea of taking someone somewhere outside of their ordinary experience and making them feel. I like the idea of world building. And I'm not just talking Star Wars, Avatar, you know, fantasy. But I mean, literally everything, even this show, I mean, everybody knows it's just two guys in their studios, but we're adding something to it. That illusion's shattered somewhat in a live episode, but there's lighting and graphics, and we're creating a feel, right? We're creating a little tiny mini world. And I have no delusions of grandeur about what I'm doing for my clients. I realize I'm not making, you know, motion pictures with them. But you are faking reality, right? Every time you advertise a product, you're making it look, I don't want to say it's better than it is, but you're shining a certain light on it. Or, I mean, people don't, when you sit somebody down to interview them, not to be harsh, but nobody looks that good. We spend a lot of time making them look that good. You know, I mean, I would look much worse without these lights and makeup and de-shine. It's all faking reality. And not to get too kind of philosophical about it, except that I'm going to, because that's who I am. That's all we do anyway. Like, I don't think anything any of us as human beings experience is unfiltered reality. Everything we experience, everything our brain assembles is a picture of reality informed by past memories and belief systems and reality tunnels. So to me, everything we experience as human beings is purely imagination. there are facts and truths that connect all of that. I mean, gravity applies and so forth. But for me, movies, art in general, dance, painting, music, that's all. That to me, art to me is the highest endeavor that humankind can achieve. And I also find it interesting that it's like the first thing humans ever did. If you look at the Lascaux cave paintings, you know, we made some tools. First thing we did was create art. Math came later. Language came later. It was art. And so, again, I'm not saying everything I do is the highest form of art by any stretch of the imagination, but that is what I am aiming for. That's what interests me. That's what moves me the most. In a painting, I like the idea, and I'm no painter, but I like the idea of somebody making a painting, and it's a static object, but how do you make that not seem static? How do you make that seem kinetic and alive and have movement and momentum, even though it's not actually physically moving? And on the opposite end of the spectrum with movies, even though it's moving, how do you make somebody feel still? And I mean like meditative, contemplative still. Like how do you make them feel like the Tao or the oneness of the cosmos, even though it's moving images? So these are all just challenges, and that to me is like, you know, you can look at religion, and I'll put it this way, like you can have mythology without religion, but you can't have religion without mythology. And personally, I just push the religion aside. I like the mythology. And mythology to me is the symbol system that it's basically the poetic language of our species told through art. And so once again, art and spirituality are like on this highest plane that we know of so far as human endeavor. Corporate video is somewhat down here, but it's in that same discipline. It's just several steps removed because it's motivated by other things. Anyway, that went on for a while, but that's how I feel.
You know what? Besides you've been going from a while, and that was a very deep type of thing. It's better to have this type of conversation when you have a glass of wine and some food around, because that conversation is going to go on for a long time.
Yeah.
But when you say like corporate video is like somewhere over here, that's why I like corporate video, because there is so much possibility for us to go there and improve it and change it.
Yes.
I think this is one of the reasons why I stayed with my previous employer for quite a while, is that I could see so many things that could be better there. So for example, one of the pitches that I had was to create internally a TV show that was not like Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley would be the thing that would approach closest, because I was in a tech company, but do that internally for the employees, like in a way to break a little bit that corporate everything, because one of the offices that I was working at was a lot nicer than the rest of the company, and I wanted to transmit that type of thing to the rest of the company, and I want to make that as a TV show produced internally with people from. So I mean, there were a lot of people that did theater there in the building I was working at. So there are so many things that you can do. Of course, corporate always has that one thing that is the client, the one that's paying, right? You want to go there, get creative, and offer them other ways of doing things. And they said, no, just the talking head, the lower third, the 78 bullet points, and the B-roll, and the signature in the end. I mean, some are going to be like this. Some others are going to say, yeah, cool, what can we do to change to make it better, to be less corporate?
Yes.
I think that's one of the reasons why I like corporate stuff in general.
Yeah, I
know you don't love it.
Well,
I don't love it either.
I found myself in this area because it's just part of the journey to filmmaking, to the loftier stuff that I was just talking about. It turns out I'm good at it, and I push myself hard, and I'm a harsh critic of myself. And that's why at least I feel like I continually improve, because I'll complete something and I don't really deliver anything that I think is crap. So I like it a lot, at least at the point at which I finish it. And I watch my stuff repeatedly, And if in a week or a month I'm like, I don't know about that, then I'm going to work to fix that and do better even next time. And maybe the client loved that. Maybe what I did was perfect for that client, that project at that time. But there could be, you could choose a very different approach for a very similar product or a very similar service. We've talked about this before in other episodes. It's just a lot of people want to play it safe. Interview, talking head, B-roll, logo, call to action, done. That's fine. It can work. But convincing them, well, let me try something very different. Let me try a different approach. Even though that's more rewarding for you as an artist, and even though if it comes together well, it could do really well for them, it is still a risk. It is a risky move for them. So I understand why they'd play it safe. Interview, call to action, whatever. I'm more interested in going where you were just talking about, which is, how do I actually tell a story with this? How do I make it dramatic? It's marketing and advertising. It's, it's important. We're this show.
Human psychology, actually, too.
Well, yeah. I mean, technically,
we all have to know a little bit of that too, right?
We're marketing ourselves right now, so I can't completely bash marketing. But it's all about manipulating emotion to get you to buy a product or service. Ideally, the products and services I help shill are something I stand by, because that makes it easier to do my job. There's certain products and certain people I would not do videos for, just because I refuse to support certain organizations. But yeah.
I don't think I would make a video for Facebook. I have very strong feelings against Facebook.
I was thinking more like if the Ku Klux Klan wanted to do a video, I would say, there's no way. Sorry, not only am I not doing a video, I'm going to report you to the government.
Sorry, Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump. I can't make a video for you.
Yeah.
Not that he would want, but yeah. I think he takes care well of himself on Twitter. It's fine. He doesn't need videos.
No, he doesn't.
Well,
so,
I guess we're getting very close to that 1 hour mark here that we aimed for our broadcast.
We had 2 people jump on.
That's amazing. It's better than none.
It turns out we know them both, and I think they just jumped on so that we didn't start crying, maybe. But
thank you, Jason.
I'm glad they were there anyway. The fact that more of a community didn't jump on just makes this more like a regular episode in ways. But we were going to put one out this week regardless. So. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over the fact that only 2 people were on here, because
I expected
we don't advertise.
that, to be honest.
Yeah, well,
I've seen quite a few live broadcasts before. Well, see it this way: even Caleb Pike, for example, and a few other bigger YouTubers. Once you do it live, you're gonna have 50, 40 people joining there at any given time. I mean, you're talking to a global audience.
Yeah.
People are working. We're in the middle of the week. We're in the middle of the day. It's 11 Central, so some people are going for lunch, some others are working, they should be working. Here in Europe, it's maybe a little bit easier because it's after 6 p.m., but still. But I think later on people are going to, hope people are going to watch this episode, right? Right, people? You're going to watch it, right? I think we need to have more Kirby here in our episode.
Oh, she's just so good on camera. Yeah, I mean, that was obvious. I knew that before we ever had her on the show, but she really showed us up during that episode. But I think we're getting better.
Yeah, and I was able to not make the intro on the first take, but at least this time that was live, it was okay, right, guys? It was okay.
I think so. And watching the feed delayed right now, I think it all looks pretty damn good.
I actually like my exposure here because the sun was coming in and out. I had to change the exposure there all the time, but right now I'm actually satisfied, and I love how the light on my face is working right now. I love light and shadow, and I really like to have this dark side of myself as well. So I'm satisfied right now.
I like getting rid of the sun completely, not just when I'm shooting, but in pretty much every area of my life. It's not that I don't appreciate that it makes life possible here, but I shot for 4 hours on a tennis court, and I'm still slightly sunburned, and that was like a month and a half ago. So the sun can go to hell, really, as far as I'm concerned.
Man, maybe you should try moving to Norway or something like that, to the northern Norway. You're gonna actually during summer you're gonna get sun 20 hours a day, but during winter you're gonna have just 2 hours a day of sun. So maybe that's it.
I'll just
Okay.
hide out in my basement.
Okay. Jason is still there. Jason, thank you very much for hanging on with us until the end. Sending your messages there. I definitely look forward to meeting you again at the Creative Summit. I hope you're going to be there. We definitely are trying to get there this year, but we don't know the dates yet. We don't even know if it's happening. Thomas
commented
saying,
that because it's during the day, it could be a challenge. Well, sort of. It's just about noon in the States, but it's 7 o'clock there just about. And as far as the Thomas, I got to call you out here. I'm already many episodes behind for that very reason. Well, the episodes are available 24 hours a day. So anything pre-recorded, you can watch whenever you want. I'm not going to buy I couldn't watch it live, so it's impossible thing. I stand by
I can tell you, the only thing live that I watched today was the World Cup, of course. I was watching that. And stuff on YouTube, anything else like TV programs or anything like that, I only watch on demand.
Yeah.
So of course, on demand is huge across media, but also the live content also has a place, I think. And I think it's even more important for those that are more famous. For example, if Casey Neistat is gonna do a live broadcast, a bunch of people are gonna join. If Peter McKinnon is gonna do a live broadcast, a lot of people are gonna join. So the more famous you are, the better it is to do a live broadcast. I'm gonna use just a very small example here. When Instagram Live came out and when Periscope came out, there was one artist that I really liked that started doing broadcasts, and what it was him in his bedroom with the guitar, and immediately there would be like 3,000 people connected, and it was John Mayer. He would be in his bedroom with his guitar off of the amp. So, I mean, he's not putting makeup on his sound or anything. And he's just chatting with people, reading the comments, like people asking him to play song. I'm like, oh yeah, that one is very cool. And then he starts playing a little bit, he sings, and he's interacting with people. I think it's very important for people that are very, very famous. We are not there yet, but I actually really like the interaction.
Nobody's banging down my door to watch me without makeup, alone in a room with no lights, any more than they're banging on us to put all this together anyway. So we just got to keep doing it because I enjoy doing it. I think some good information is getting out there. And Thomas just compared us to Netflix. So
Oh my God.
I will go with that. Also behind on so many Netflix shows, so no offense.
Okay.
No offense.
Netflix,
no offense ever taken.
Way.
So I'm not offended that you did not find time in the last 2 months to watch any of our episodes.
Or Netflix shows.
Yeah. So especially, it's not like I send you a link, Thomas, every time the episode's done or anything. But anyway.
He's going to have like bookmark from Gabriel.
Yeah, I could just...
links there.
I'll just do to him what he does to me when I don't respond for a while. So I'll be sitting around and my phone will beep and it's just a question mark. And then another question mark. So I'm just going to keep doing that every time he doesn't watch an episode. And we'll see where that goes.
Hey Thomas, did you watch? Did you watch? Did you watch? Did you watch? Did you watch?
Exactly. All right.
Well, I keep on asking my family and they're like, oh, I didn't have time yet. Okay.
Yeah, my mom hasn't watched this. My mom just said, I don't have any idea what you guys are talking about. I don't care. That's more reason to watch it then, because by the end of it, you will know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I guess that's it. So my alarm here is saying that we've been live for an hour. So
perfect.
Any last remarks from you?
No, thanks. I hope more people are able to join us or willing to join us next time. We have another episode coming out next week. We're planning for Thursday. It's already been recorded. Also, if you watch this pre-recorded, you watch it tomorrow or next week, please still send comments. It won't be under a chat window, but it'll be below because we are constantly monitoring and wanting to respond. Talking to ourselves is fine and fun, and we were doing that even before we started rolling cameras, but it's even more fun if you guys jump in. So Thanks very
Absolutely.
much thanks very much
Yeah,
those of you
thank
who
you.
did tune in.
Subscribe to the channel, of course. Click the little bell icon there, play with it. And I guess that's it. See you in the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We're going to wave
Wow,
erratically
that
until the
is
credits kick
really
in now.
good.
Yeah.
And here goes with our credits.
No.
Bye.
Do it.